So hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Talking All Things Jesus. So today I wanted to discuss what true love was according to the Bible. So in the Bible, it says that God is love. That is his nature. He is love. And if you go into 1 John 4, verse 7 to 8, it says, let us love one another, for love comes from God and knows God. And whoever does not love does not know God. So here we see that the beginning and the understanding and the creation of what love is started with God. Love exists because of God. He is love. Love is his very nature. And the reason why I put so much emphasis on this is because we're all a humanity that is in search of love. And we look everywhere but up. We look everywhere to find love in relationships, in our families, hoping that they will fill the holes. We look for them in man to woman relationships, in marriages. I can't tell you how many times I've met countless women who come to church and say, I'm here to find my husband. Why? Because they want to find love. And I was in that same boat. I was no different. And so our quest for love means we're really seeking him. If we don't know God yet, do we really know what love is? And the answer is no. We don't know what love is if we don't know God. A life apart from God, for however long you haven't been in relationship with God, in those years, they're probably filled with things that only cause trauma, only cause loneliness, only cause depression and anxiety and feelings of emptiness. And today I'm going to share a large part of my testimony as the Spirit leads. Whether it comes out in pieces or all of it, I'm not really sure. Today, I want to discuss how I went from feeling all those ways that I just previously discussed, and now to being a child of God who feels loved from the inside out. I am a product of rejection. I am a product of abandonment. I used to feel lonely. I used to feel sad and depressed at times. I used to feel really empty and alone at certain parts of my life because every relationship that I would get into or whatever I was seeking, even in a friendship, left me confused. It left me frustrated because it wasn't filling anything here. It wasn't completing me. And so as the years went on in my life, from the age of 15 all the way to 20 years old, which now I'm 44, but all those years of searching, looking for love in friendship, for love in male relationships, left me broken and lost. And so I'm going to share my testimony today about how I found love and how I found it in God. And remember, going back to the scripture, if God is love and we have not found him yet, and we don't have a relationship with him yet, then we have not found love. And we will continue on a search for it if we're looking for it in any other place other than him. You won't find it in marriage. You won't find it in a relationship. You won't find it in family. You won't find it in friendships or even just your pets. There will still always be a hole in your heart that is on a search for love. Why? Because that's the way God made it. God made us to need him. God made us to have relationship with him. Let's go on a journey of my testimony so you can understand why I'm on this platform in the first place, recording myself. I need you guys to understand something. This is like very brand new to me. Recording myself, talking to a camera is so unnatural to me. I'm used to talking to people. I'm used to having human interactions with people at church, my friends, my family. I'm not even used to social media. I didn't grow up with it. I don't love posting things. And for me to be on this platform takes a lot out of me. I struggle with stage fright. I can't breathe sometimes. My cheeks get flushed. So I'm doing this for a reason. I'm doing this because the God that showed me love is wanting to show you that same love. And I have such a desperation in my heart to show you the God that has transformed me, the God that has loved me, stitched my heart back together, and has changed every circumstance in my life. So I'm going to start from the beginning, wherever that is. But I guess I'll start so many places to start. I will start from just relationships. I've always been a girl looking for love in a man. And I dated from when I was very, very, very young. I started dating at 14 years old. Of course, now looking back, I'm like, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was just spending time with a guy that I met at school, gave me attention, and I lost my virginity to him. Shortly later, because I didn't know about contraception, I didn't know about protection, I wasn't led by my family, by my mom and dad, telling me or giving me any advice. So I ended up pregnant at 14 years old. That's nuts when I look back, when I think back on how a baby is going to give birth to a baby. It's crazy now looking back as a 44-year-old woman, how I could have raised that child. Now, I was kind of forced into an abortion. His family didn't want me to have an abortion, but my family wanted me to continue going to school, and they told me that I will ruin my life and that it's not a great idea, Jennifer. And I cried. I cried when I told my family. I cried when I called my dad because I thought I had really disappointed them. And I did. I'm sure that I did. But I had an abortion and I cried right after. I cried for a long time. And that would be the beginning of me and broken relationships. And shortly after this relationship, or after the abortion, that relationship was over because he became a little bit abusive. I remember getting punched in the face. I remember getting kicked on the floor. Um, I think he was a very jealous guy. And at that point, I had not known abuse. I had no idea because I didn't witness physical abuse or emotional abuse for that matter in any way, shape, or form. So him doing that was a shock to me, but at first it wasn't because I thought he was just playing around. And all that to say, the relationship shortly grew sour and then we split apart. And so here, Jennifer is from 14, 15 years old, dating one man after the next, looking for love. And I'm not saying that everyone else does the same thing that I do, but that was me. And although I had a father and I had a mother who took care of me, put clothes on my back, had a place for me to live, there must have been something that I was looking for inside of those men that I needed to fill the holes inside of me. And so from 15 years old and on, I would continue to date men, looking for them to fill the gaps of my heart, looking for affection, looking for quality time, looking for hugs and kisses and just affection. I guess that's what I was looking for. So 15, 16 years old, 17 years old. And now, when 17 hits 16, 17 years old, I bump into a girl. She tells me that she makes money doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, oh, what is it that you do that make you make money? What is it that you do to buy all the nice things that you have? And it's not like my family didn't have money. We had food on the table. My parents separated when I was 5. So I went with my mom and I would see my dad every weekend. So being raised by my mother, I know looking back now, I may have not known then, but I know looking back that I would sit by the window and wait for my dad to come pick me up every weekend because I loved my dad. I still love my dad. He's an amazing father. He's a pain in my butt now, but he's just an amazing dad. And he probably will never know how I feel about him because I was just raised so tough that love wasn't in the equation for any of us, my mom nor with my dad. And so being raised so tough, it's very hard to share my affection towards him. And so it is with him towards me. I don't think he's ever shown affection towards me. He's always shown his love towards me by making me have good experiences, making sure that I, had fun things to do. I went swimming. He took me hiking. And back then I had stepsisters, not blood related, but through another relationship. I grew up on the weekends with two girls whom I spent a lot of time with on the weekends, and he had us do everything. He had us do everything, experience camping trips, sleepaway camp, taught me how to swim, taught me how to ride my bike, was always there for me. He even did some of my homework for me when I was struggling in school. He cared about every aspect of my life. And even to this day, at a 44-year-old age, my dad still calls me to make sure I ate. My dad still makes sure to tell me, hey, you know, you better be careful when you come out of your car at night. You know there's crazy people outside. And so he's always making sure that I'm safe and that I'm always watching my back or that I have food in my fridge. Just like a little girl, he's always done that since I was little. And even now, till I have a full head of gray hair. Well, I mean, now it's dyed. To this day, he checks on me and makes sure that I'm okay. Make sure I have food in the fridge. Yeah, my parents weren't together from the age of me being 5 all the way through till now. My mother is married to someone else and he's with someone else. So going back to what I was saying before, me looking for love in all the wrong places. And who knows, did it have anything to do with my parents splitting and maybe the trauma that that created? Possibly. I believe so. I believe that all kinds of trauma lead us towards making the decisions that we make because we come from broken homes. We may come from alcoholic homes. We may come from homes where we feel neglected. And let me tell you something. I was also neglected by my mother. And although we have a good relationship now, as a child, although she raised me in her home, I don't believe that my mother knew how to care for me well. She knew how to put clothes on my back and provide a home for me and put food on the table. But I don't believe, looking back at her childhood, that she knew how to give love to me. And I chalk that up to not being loved in her own relationship with her mother growing up. See, a lot of times you'll hear me go back to my childhood and her childhood because I have done over the years a lot of reflection and therapy throughout the years to understand how we become who we are today. What are the things that shape our hearts? What are the things that shape the behaviors that we engage in now? And a lot of it, in fact, all of it, has to do with our upbringing and the environments that we're in every day. And so, whatever environments I was exposed to have created and shaped the Jennifer that I was and have tried to recover from and allow God to restore me from all these years, from 15 years old, where I started to experiment in relationships and finding love, up until my late 30s, which we'll get to. 17 years old, I meet a girl. She's a dancer, aka a stripper. I'm like, ooh, she makes money. It seemed very desirable what she was buying with her money. And so she introduced me to a world that I never knew of, that I never experienced. And shortly after that, I became a dancer and I started making money. And that right there would be the beginning of me being exposed to sexuality in a completely different way. So it wasn't me just now looking for love in the wrong places and being this shy little girl that had no direction. Now, this would be the environment that would shape the rest of my 20s and my 30s. And so, although I was only dancing for, I don't know, maybe 2 years, I learned so many bad things there. Sex, drugs, and alcohol. That might be the best way to explain it. I had a lot of sex partners. I met a lot of people there, a lot of men. And of course, you're dancing on a stage half naked with men who are gawking at you, desiring you, not for relationship, but desiring your body. Me being naive as I was, I thought that this was cool. I bragged about what my profession was when I was 16, 17 years old. This was my life for about 2 years. And I got really deep into just meeting a lot of people, started to use men for their money. I started to get really selfish with money. And even to the point that one day I took a ride from somebody where I was in the Bronx and taking this ride from a stranger just because I didn't want to spend my own money. Although I was making money, I became so greedy with it that I took a ride from a stranger who almost raped me. I got in his car and he started to drive and he just kept driving. And for a second, I was like, this doesn't seem like the direction towards my house. And when I said that, he didn't respond. He didn't even look at me. He just kept driving. And everything seemed so unfamiliar. As we kept driving to him, I looked over to him, to the driver's seat, and I said, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And he didn't answer me again. And so we're on the middle of not even a highway. We're on a road leading I don't know where, but there's nobody around. There's no cars. It was like very suburban, not very city-like. And first instinct was to jump out of the car. And so I found the lock, but I was like, if I jump out here, he'll just come back and chase me and drag me back into the car. And so when I found the right opportunity and he made a turn around a bend in the road by these really large houses, I jumped out of the car with my bag, rolled out of the car, started screaming and bolting towards somebody's house. And I'm trying, I don't even remember if I let out a scream loud enough, but the lights of the house, the front porch went on. And this man jumps out of his car, leaves his door open, and starts bolting and running towards me. And all I can feel is like a football hug and like pounce on my back. And I'm screaming, and he's on top of my back. And I scream, and all of a sudden, and I believe to this day that it was God, he just got up and he ran all the way back to the car. And I ran behind the garbage cans of that house, and I didn't move. I don't know, for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I had never experienced anything like that in my life. And all because I didn't want to spend money on a taxi. I was willing to jeopardize my life for 40 or 60 bucks. But again, I'm a naive teenager. I don't know anything about life. My parents didn't know what I was doing. And I was just a follower, following a girl and becoming a dancer throughout different neighborhoods, making money and living, I guess, the good life, eating good food, going on vacations, meeting a lot of different people, and using men for their money. But that day would be the most traumatic experience that would haunt me for many, 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 many years of my life, to the point where the PTSD of it all would make me panic with any person that I was with. Like, I literally would think everyone was trying to trap me in their car every time it was a male friend. I would instantly panic and say something crazy or do something crazy because I really thought that that person was trying to do the same thing that I had experienced when I was like 16, 17 years old. So here I am, a young teenager, experiencing crazy relationships with men, completely over sexualized environments, and men wanting to spend time with me and my friends that now I have made in this industry because they want to sleep with us. They don't want relationships with us. But back then I didn't know that. And still, my mind was still set on love. That never left me. But now I thought, oh, I can use my body now to get the things that I want. I continued dancing. I made sure to always now take my own taxis after that horrible experience. And then one day, I meet this guy, one of many. I meet this guy at one of the clubs I'm working with. We start to have a relationship. I had to have been 17, 18 years old at this point. He met me that way as a dancer. And one day he sees me doing a dance with a guy and he didn't like it. And he walked out and I chased right after him that day. We might have been in a relationship for a few months. And then when I chased him that day, I actually never went back to dancing because when I went to go and speak to him, he was just, I guess, heartbroken that he had seen me with somebody else, but knowing that that's where he met me, knowing that that's what my profession was, but still being hurt, I guess, from seeing me in action, I guess you could say. And so that was actually the thing that saved me from that environment, from that industry. I quickly would end up going for interviews, trying to work in daycares. And from that moment, from whatever, 17 years old up until now, I work with children. I never stopped working with children. Thank God for that man entering my life because that was the one relationship where I felt like, okay, I feel love here. I'm not going to risk that for some stupid job. I can go get a job somewhere else. And you know, the mindset that I believe that I did have thinking back when I was a dancer was I'm not smart enough to have a job. I don't know how to fill out checks. I would see the things that my mother would do as a businesswoman, and I would just think, I'm not smart like that. I can't do the things she does. I don't know what made me believe that, but I just thought, I'm not going to be anything when I grow up. I'm stupid. I didn't really excel in school. I think high school is really hard for me. My best classes were gym and instruments. I got hundreds in those classes, but like French and math and science and history and reading, oh, I really sucked at school. And maybe that was part of the reason why I just thought I wasn't good enough. I just didn't really do well in school. If I played hooky, I didn't play hooky to spend time with my friends. I actually played hooky to go to sleep, to go be in my room. Um, I would wait till my mom left, hide somewhere in the house, and then just hang out at home. So I missed a lot of days of school. My grades were like this, up and down, up and down, up and down. And then I actually dropped out of high school. At around 17 years old, I decided school wasn't for me. Of course, I'm a teacher now, so I ended up getting my GED. I went to college all the way through, and I just stuck with college. And somehow God got me through it. I do believe that God has actually been there all along from the very beginning because I never felt equipped with any kind of brain or any kind of smarts to do anything impactful my whole life. Teaching children might have been the first place where I excelled in school. And that made me feel like I know how to do something, like I was really doing well my first years of college. I just kept going all the way once I saw that, wow, I'm getting 90s and hundreds in classes that pertain to children. So maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. And so that's where I am today at 44 years old, still teaching children and loving what I do. So, guys, this is going to be part one of a two-part series because it just turns out that testimonies are a lot of work and my life story cannot be bunched up in, apparently, not 30 minutes. We will continue on the next video in part two to go over the rest of my testimony of how I became who I am and how I found love in Christ, how I found true love, and how this testimony of mine will paint a picture of how God has been there from the beginning, weaving all the pieces together of a life that was worth nothing, and He turns it into beauty. I will see you in part two.